Hi, Misha here, and we're keeping on with Predators and NECA figures. Now, the last video I posted was actually on the Fugitive. That was a bit of a skip forward just because I had it ready and having a little fun with the 5.5.2. But let's cast our minds back to the Wolf Predator. Those figures were released in 2008 and had pretty limited articulation. Not as bad as people make it out to be, if I'm being 100% honest. But most places Wolf, and well, he was kind of the only Predator in that series, could move where his arms and head, his legs were fixed. The reason I'm giving this preface, in 2010 we had the film Predators, which was the first just straight Predator film since 1990 in Predator 2. We had AVP and AVP Requiem, but Predators was a return. And NECA had the license and produced figures. Here we go. We have the three main Super Predators, as they were called, and these were released between 2010 and 2012. And do show some improved articulation, around 20 points versus, about a dozen, maybe even 10 for the initial ones. Now, the Super Predators in the film are considered bad bloods. They're also quite young, and they're also rivals of the so-called Jungle Hunter clan, which is the original classic Predator clan. We have three members: Tracker, Falconer, and Berserker himself. And these are hard to get now. Two out of these three I bought used from a seller that I've had good luck with on eBay. He's been helping sell off his father-in-law's collection. And turns out I got a really good deal on these two, not even really knowing it. The Falconer I did pick up in package from a different seller that I trust. And I was very nervous about Tracker coming in because there's a couple of things on him that are so easily broken. These are the three we see on the game preserved with the captured humans. So with no further ado, we'll dive in, beginning with Tracker. Here he is. And this is all he comes with. Really just this removable wrist blade. That's maybe why I was so surprised that Wolf came with as many accessories as he did, because when you get to the Super Predators here, they don't come with much, with one exception. So this blade is removable, and we'll talk about why later. The one he comes with is kind of a half-deployed version. Believe it or not, it actually can go longer. And we can see the new articulation in the knees and hips. Not as good as later, but much better than Wolf. There's also some movement in the foot. He has regular elbow and hand movement too. Like I said, I picked him up used, but he did come with an unbroken wrist blade, and more importantly, unbroken tusks. These are very hard to keep intact. I'm sure at some juncture I will break them. But the shipper, the seller, really went out of his way. I jokingly said, shove his head in a box, because if you tried to bubble wrap this, that would put pressure and snap things off. It's actually hard to ship stuff like this. He actually did. He put him in a box and duct taped him with a strap so he wouldn't come loose, and it worked. Even removed the wrist blade and put it separate so it wouldn't break off. Finally, he has a plasma caster. Unlike with Wolf, where it's removable, it is in place, but it does move. So the idea behind the Super Predators, this is kind of a young clan of only three, at least at the point of the film. Although some other media has it that the Super Predator clan is much older. And they're kind of unconventional. They don't adhere to the honor code, what have you. And each of them kind of has a shtick. Tracker's shtick is that he likes using hunting dogs or predator, so-called hellhounds. We've actually seen these in media before, and we'll see them again, at least a version of, in 2018's Predators, or excuse me, The Predator, but he doesn't come with one, which just seems like a missed opportunity. Now, they did release the Hellhound, the Predator Hound, separately later, but that's maybe the most expensive figure out there, probably because people army built with him, because in the film he has up to 8 of them. And so I'm not doing that. I'm not spending $200 on a dog. So what we're going to do to give him a hunting animal is we're bringing this guy in. Hey, he survived an alien attack. He's pretty badass. Jonesy. You have a hunting cat. He's another one from NECA that came with the Ripley. I'm sure one day. He actually has some articulation, like his tail. Don't know if this one has others. I think the other version has a moving head too, but I got him in the hissing. Tracker used his hellhounds to flesh out game, to find them, to flesh them out, but they could definitely rip and tear. The predator hounds are very, very vicious, but mostly he used them to flesh them out. Sometimes he's known as the flesher predator, which connotations there. Also, he's known as the dog handler, and that's his specialty. It's said that he's a loner, kind of a grump. He would definitely be a hermit living in a cabin. He prefers his animals, that I understand, over other predators, not to mention other things. And he is definitely a bad blood in that sense. He deploys hellhounds in ways that other predators wouldn't conceive of, and he considers that they've been underutilized for centuries. So he trains his own, and we see him using him in the film. It's said that these tusks on his mask are from No Longer With Us hellhounds. He has the single long wrist blade that the super predators go for. And he has the super predator plasma caster, which is an updated version. It's larger but sleeker. Still fires bolts, but it actually spins kind of like a Gatling gun and can be charged up kind of a la video game style. Still has the tracking. We still have the same vision modes in the helmet. And the Super Predators have a more advanced version of the cloak than what we've seen before, so more advanced hardware. He was played in the film by Carol Jones, and in universe he's supposed to be about 7 foot 7 inches, so a little over 7.5 feet tall. In reality, the actor playing him wasn't really that tall, but it worked. And I don't think we ever see him unmasked in the film, but I could be wrong. And he's also the first predator to die in the film. He is chasing the prey out and stops to kind of toy with them. He has them cornered and trapped. They get away, and basically one of the members in the film, Nikolai, a Spetsnaz soldier, sacrifices himself, the arms do move out too on these, to keep the others, namely the doctor, alive. And they basically they unveil his cloak by hitting Tracker with a flare. He uncloaks, yada yada, fight ensues. He toys with him, he actually skewers Nikolai with his wrist blade, which shows us how strong these are. They can lift 200 plus pounds and not snap. But unfortunately he gloats too long. Well, unfortunately for him anyway. Some articulation here in the... And Nikolai arms a couple of claymore minds and turns himself into a human booby trap, and Tracker here goes poof. And I would imagine his hellhounds or hellcat cleaned him up real well. So, let's move on to our next so-called super predator. The Falconer predator. Not to be confused with the Faulkner predator, who writes novels and poems. This is the one I did buy new, and I'll explain why. You can see the elbow arm articulation here. He's stiff, but manageable. And this is the translucent, or kind of phasing, not fully cloaked, but kind of, in and out cloaked version. So his joints are still a little stiff, but movable. And yeah, they did have a superior cloak than before. Notice he does not have a plasma caster. That's by design. It's not missing. So on his body, the only weapon of note is the single wrist blade in his gauntlet. Now, this is the fully retracted version. I put this in. He actually comes with the fully extended saber version, but I wanted that for a different figure, and these are interchangeable between the super predators, so always go back. And from what people tell me, this guy looks pretty cool in his phasing form. I'll take your word for it. And normally I wouldn't go for the phasing version, but you kind of have to, because this is actually version 2. Version 1 was fully uncloaked, but did not come with this. His Falcon, which is a mechanical device. And that's the whole point of this predator. He is a technology file, which the predators are interesting about. Some tech is okay, some tech is not. He wanted to use a robotic falcon for spying and hunting prey, like a falcon. Now this one from NECA, for some reason, just did not come with version 1. It came with the cloaking one. So I had to get it. And it's actually multiple pieces. You notice it has these blades. There's debate if it actually would have in the film or not. But if you don't like it with the blades, they unplug. And actually, they're of the same size peg that would go in the wrist gauntlets. So if you don't want them, you could use them as larger, kind of scimitar style wrist gauntlets. And just have this here. Now there is a peg here, and even it's removable. But let's leave it in so I can show you this. One unique piece of kit that the Falconer had in the film was a metal glove or gauntlet brace on his left arm instead of where a traditional computer would go, and that was for the Falcon to perch on or charge or what have you, and he does have a hole there to peg it in. He also has a secondary hole on his back if you'd like to have it more in a stowed position. It's a little bit covered by his dreads, but it's there. So I've seen other reviews that say the arm peg is loose, but mine seems pretty tight. That said, for logistical reasons, I'll probably stow it on his back too when it's on the shelf. But it's pretty neat, and you can kind of have his arm out straight like he's having it land. This is about as far as I want to push it up. I think the joint might go up one more notch, but I don't want to risk it. Looks fine this way. And that's one reason I wanted to get him new, because he has accessories, actually a decent amount. A total of 3 blades, the Falcon and the Falcon's peg. And since he's in this translucent plastic, which is more brittle, I just didn't want to risk it. I was actually very worried about buying the tracker used, but I got lucky. Yeah, here he is, his technology. And we see him using his falcon in the film, cloaked him. And his story is continued on past Tracker's death. Again, the human refugees are fleeing, and Hanzo, the Yakuza, and since you know he's Japanese, he's going to have a katana, and yep, they break into a sword fight. Well, a wrist blade and sword fight. And this is where people sometimes say that Falconer was maybe the only of the super predators with some honor, because he actually does duel Hanzo. On the other hand, he didn't have a plasma caster, so, I mean, I don't know. But he does actually fight him traditional predator style, and it's basically a draw. They both get in some good blows. Was Falconer playing with him, or was he actually giving his all? Hard to say. He was obviously strong. He could toss Hanzo and whatnot, and fight him with his very strong wrist blade. But he was said to be the slimmest and shortest of the super predators, about 7 foot 5 inches, so a little under 7.5 feet, and was played by Brian Steele in the film. And yeah, you know, even though these guys are supposed to be super, it almost seems like something they might have given themselves. Also, Tracker and Falconer are considered young bloods, so we don't even know if they fought a xenomorph or not. So, hard to say if they're truly superior to traditional predators or if that's just kind of their propaganda. After all, they're taken out by humans. And like I said, he fought Hanzo, and technically Hanzo, I guess, won. Both of them were mortally wounded, but Falconer here died first. Hanzo was able to celebrate his victory for a moment before succumbing to his wounds as well. But, yeah, according to the Yautja code, that would mean that he was the victorious one. Neat figure. The Falcon is definitely worth getting, and without it, you pretty much just get a blade. And, I don't know. You don't even get a plasma caster. At least Tracker has a plasma. Just pulling this out. Like I said, mine's quite tight, and it can fit in on his back here. There's a hole about right there. Just pegs in. Would have been neat if maybe at least the first issue came with the Falcon and it's kind of folded up storage form, so at least you'd have one of each. But I think NECA was trying to figure out things at this time, 2011, 2012, of how to get the price point right, articulation, kind of figure out what they were doing. Well, now it's time to talk about their leader, the Berserker Predator. And you actually get a twofer here. This is the one I mentioned at the beginning that I picked up used. And this is actually one I found new in a store, so I actually got to pay real prices. This is the fully cloaked version. I think this was a Comic-Con exclusive, but regardless, the cloaked versions don't typically go for as much as the uncloaked. He was also known as Mr. Black or Super Black and was the alpha, the leader of the Super Predator clan, and the one that lived the longest in the film. So, let's talk about him. Beginning with the cloaked version, you notice he has the long, fully extended single blade. This was actually the one that came with Falconer, but since the uncloaked version has the fully retracted version, I thought, yeah, let's break it up a bit. Give him this, make him a little more unique. Again, they're fully switchable. And he is pretty much fully cloaked. He does have the Gatling style plasma caster, quite long. He has, of course, the advanced cloak, and is supposedly faster, stronger. He's also played by Brian Steele, and is said to be in universe about the same height as Tracker there. 7.5 feet, give or take. Of course, like I said, the blade's removable. I've noticed this one's a little loose, but it doesn't fall out on its own. But I guess as long as it is, it's good that it would rather fall out than break. I could always put a little blue tack in there to just a tiny blob would keep it in, but I don't know if I want to keep it with him permanently or give it back to Falconer. He has the same articulation, kind of that 20 points mid style. He's neat enough. His biomask has the jawbone of another animal. I think some have said it's even supposed to be of another predator, because he is decidedly a bad blood. He's also a blooded leader. We know that he has killed the xenomorph. In fact, that's part of his backstory. He was the youngest young blood, at least in recent memory, to kill a xenomorph. He was considered a bit of a predator prodigy, and he had the highest kill count for his age of various species, but he wanted more, and therefore he left his original clan and started the Super Predator clan. Again, some other lore from the comics and whatnot say that the Super Predator clan already existed, but most with him say that he started it. Regular articulation, of course. There's waste, but it's usually very sticky. Typically with these, when I get them new, I do have to use a hair dryer, which is okay. Better that than too loose. And it's said that he organized the game Preserved Planet. Others have speculated maybe since they were bad bloods, they were actually imprisoned there. Who knows? But he is usually said to be responsible for gathering captives and fighting them. And he likes to play with his dinner, as it were, with the other ones. We see that he uses some psychological warfare, trying to use a corpse of a human to lure out the other humans, but they don't fall for it. And generally speaking, just kind of not being all that honorable. In fact, we see him have one of the jungle hunters, often called just the classic predator in the film, as a captive. He's sometimes also called the crucified predator. And the humans ally with him, and Berserker and Classic fight. Even though Classic is wounded, he puts up a pretty good fight, but eventually Berserker here beheads him using his wrist sword thing. Which kind of, again, makes me wonder if the quote-unquote super part's more their propaganda than reality, because while he did become victorious over a traditional predator, it wasn't an easy fight. Oh wow. And of course they're still getting walloped by humans. But at least we got a predator on predator fight. Pretty unique for the universe. And again, we have the clear guy here. Pretty neat for what it is. But he, of course, wasn't cloaked for the entire film. I nearly didn't buy this guy used from the seller that had him, because I had the cloaked version. But I'm sure glad I did, because then I saw what Berserker here brings on the secondary market. In box, sure, but even out of the box, it was a good deal. He does have unique dreads that are kind of red and black mixed, making him unique. And then, of course, we see the bone on his mask. I believe they did do an unmasked version as well later in the series. Caster moves in all directions, up, down, left, right. And again, this is all he came with. Just like Tracker, he's pretty bare bones, just a wrist blade. Again, this is the fully retracted variant. So he is the remaining predator, and his main rival is Royce in the film. First, Royce kind of bloods him by booby trapping using some grenades, and Berserker gets wounded in this, but not seriously. They end up getting into a duel. He has his wrist blade. Royce has an axe of sorts, and he actually lights up a ring of fire using, I think, gunpowder to try to block out his heat vision. But then we realize that one of the modes in his mask is actually like a biomonitor, a pulse version, and he's able to track Royce that way. The fight continues, and for a minute, Berserker gets the upper hand, knocking the axe out of Royce's hand. And right as he's gloating, about to finish him off, Isabella shoots him with a sniper rifle, not killing him, but distracting him. And this is actually when we see that this wrist blade can be launched out as kind of a last resort weapon. He skewers her in the shoulder, effectively putting her out of the action. So now it's kind of just fisticuffs. That was a last use weapon. And he takes on with Royce. By this time, though, Royce has been able to regain his axe. And they fight back and forth. And at this point, his biomask is damaged and he discards it. He's long since lost his plasma caster in typical Predator fashion. And it goes blow for blow, but Royce finally gets the upper hand with the axe and chops off an arm. And then eventually, after a good deal of hacking, chops off the head, ending the life of the would-be clan leader, still maybe young blood in a lot of ways, Berserker. Really making me wonder just how super these guys were. I think it was more in their own minds than anything else, but yeah, at least it was kind of a return to form for Predators. And that's the 3. And to end everything laid out, I still think that Predator cats should be a thing. I also think that Tracker should have come with one, even if it was like a deluxe, but oh well. I don't know. I think they were starting to realize they needed to pack in more accessories when they did Falconer here. And of course, Berserker. You think I should leave the long blade with cloaked or give him back to Falconer and give him the short? I just thought it would give a difference. Here he is with short retracted, long deployed, and of course Tracker has the intermediate blade length. So the only one I'm really missing is the Predator Hound. Maybe one day I'll run across one, but I'm not going to spend that kind of crazy money. So 2 of these I got used, 2 I got new or new old stock. And they're cool for what they are, and it kind of shows not only the different Predators from the 2010 film, but the evolution of NECA. And they'll continue to evolve as we kind of move forward and kind of to the AVP era, which was 2014 through 2016. But that's for another video. What do you think? What's your favorite design? I have to say I like Falconer. His mask is kind of Falcon style, very angular. Berserker's is kind of a bone style. And of course the Tracker's is very distinctive with the tusks. The problem with the figure is this is really hard plastic. If it was more of a rubbery, flexible, and I think if they ever did a reissue of Tracker, they would definitely give him kind of the more malleable, flexible plastic that they've been using. It's hard to say what these should have come with more, because they weren't really doing interchangeable heads at the time. Falconer with the Falcon's pretty much complete. Maybe Berserker could have come with the bone axe that Royce used, I'm not sure. Or maybe a trophy of the classic Predator, you know, his head, since he beheads him. That'd be kind of neat. We do see him collect a human trophy in the film. The only thing that Tracker had in the film was a whistle that he used to control his pets, but we actually never see it, although we hear it. So it'd be hard to have that included when we don't even know what it looks like. That's kind of my thought. What do you think? Let me know your favorite. Let me know what you think they could have done or should have done, or maybe you think they're fine the way they are. Keep in mind, too, these were not super expensive back when they came out. You could pick one up for 20 to 25 bucks new, maybe even cheaper on clearance, and these were in stores. But certainly an improvement in articulation from the Requiem series. Just, yeah, kind of that mid-range, but there's improvements still to be made as we move forward into the more modern era. But with that, I'll get these big guys back on their stands. I've just been using these cheap ones. Seem to work. And get back to work. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.